I just did a really hyper introduction and my microphone broke off of my lapel. I was like, oh, and it just flew off. And I didn't even have the camera rolling, which is a bummer. So welcome to Stevie's Earth-Based Kitchen, located on the intersection of veganism, healthy aging, and happiness. Okay, today is going to be a really simple video because I'm making a very simple thing. It's a New Mexican red chili sauce, and I'm making it in a traditional way with very few ingredients. And what prompted this was I posted a picture of the posole that I made last week, and so many people wanted the recipe. Now I'm not ready to actually give you the posole recipe. That's going to come in a couple weeks when I do part 2 of my legume and longevity video. I did a video just last week where I talk about the longevity benefits of legumes, and then I showed you a bunch of legume recipes that don't really look like legumes, like no lentil loaves or dal. It was a really fun video. I'll link to it up there. Watch it after you finish watching this video, and if you want to know when I upload number 2 of legumes and longevity, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell button and you will get notified, I hope. So I make red chili all the time. You will find it in my refrigerator all the time because it's available all year round. Unlike its sister, green chili, which is fresh. It's only available during the harvest time or if it's frozen. But red chili is dried, so you can get it all year round. I order it from Hatch off of Amazon, and I find that to be the cheapest way to do it. I'll leave a link down below if you want to order it yourself. It's got a lot of nutrition. It's a great way of getting something healthy in. Is completely pantry stable. And I'm just gonna voice over from now that this is So the first thing that I like to do is just get rid of the stems and some of the seeds. And I just do this in my large cast iron. I just basically pop the stems off. I just let the seeds fall into the pan, and I don't wash them because we're going to be soaking these after we toast them. So I just turn the heat on to about medium. I move them around and I wait until they just have a really nice, fragrant smell. And I don't know why that was funny, but until they're kind of soft as well. And then they're done. So I only do this for maybe like a minute. You don't want to burn them. And then I put them in my high-speed blender, but you can actually do this in a regular blender. And you can see that most of the seeds just fall out of the pan, and we're just going to get those seeds out and compost them. So do not reach over an open flame like that. Well, I pour boiling water over the chilies until they are covered, and then I let them soak for about an hour. If you're not using a high-speed blender, you might want to let them soak for a couple of hours. We've already soaked our chilies, so we're going to drain it, rinse it, and blend it to get a paste. And I'll show you how we do that. I didn't rinse the chilies earlier because we didn't want them wet, because then they wouldn't toast in the pan, they would just steam. And also, we were going to drain them anyway and rinse them. So after I rinsed them, I stuff the red chili back into the blender and pour in just enough water to cover the chilies. And I'm going to blend them for maybe about a minute. I start out slow on low, and then I take it all the way up, and I let the heat out from time to time. So it's not going to be perfectly smooth right now because we're going to cook it for about 20 minutes and then we're going to blend it again. And at that point, it's going to be very smooth. So now we're going to prepare our alliums. I use just a clove of garlic. You can use 1 clove, 2 cloves, 3 cloves, but I really like for the chili to take center stage. So I don't use a lot of garlic or onion. I just use a little bit. So I'm using about 1/8 of a medium onion, which should probably be about 2 tablespoons of onion chopped. It's also about the size of a large shallot. Just this much will do. We're going to be blending the sauce after we cook it, so it's okay if your vegetables are a little chunky. Because I don't do gluten very well, I like to use einkorn flour, and I'm going to measure out about a quarter cup of this. So let's talk about einkorn and gluten. So einkorn is arguably the world's oldest cultivated wheat. It is mild and nutty and super tasty, but it does have gluten. It just doesn't have as much. So it's not suitable for someone who might have celiac disease, but it could be okay for some people who have gluten intolerances or allergies like me. I use about a tablespoon of this vegetarian better than bouillon. Now this also contains gluten, so if you're on a strict gluten-free diet, I would avoid it. You don't actually have to use bouillon. In fact, it's more traditional just to not, I believe, but I like it. About a tablespoon. So I begin cooking the sauce by sauteing the onions first. And I will saute these onions until they are translucent, which will take just about a minute. And then I add a quarter cup of einkorn flour. Now you could also use all-purpose flour as well. You're basically making a blonde roux. You just want to saute the flour until it's nutty and fragrant and loses that raw scent. And if it gets too dry, you can add a little bit more oil. I keep sniffing it. I use my senses a lot. And the raw flour smell goes away and it smells nutty and fragrant. That's when you drop in your garlic. And then I like to smell it for the garlic. So when the garlic smells really good, that's when you pour in your water. So you may have noticed that I switched out my wooden spoon for a whisk because it can get lumpy. So I recommend a whisk to get the lumps out. And this is the point where you add in about a tablespoon of bouillon, or if you're not using bouillon, you could just add some salt. Some people like to add cumin to it, which is not very traditional New Mexico style red chili. But I hear it might be more Tex-Mex style. And some people like to add oregano, which is a New Mexico way of doing it. But we don't have oregano in the house, so no oregano. That's not because I don't like oregano. I use oregano like crazy. That's why we don't have it. I just use it up so much. Love it. Okay, so we're just going to let this simmer for about 20 minutes. We're going to let it simmer down. We are going to stir it often and keep a keen eye on it so that it doesn't burn. We're going to have it with this delicious pinto bean jackfruit posole. It's even got a little zucchini in there. So yummy. So nourishing. Let's heat that up. So after about 20 minutes of simmering, it will have thickened a little bit, about this much. Put it back into the blender because we're going to go blend it. So I forgot to mention that before you put the sauce back into the blender, you want the blender to be well rinsed out because you don't want any uncooked pieces in there that won't get fully smooth when you blend it. Now just blend it for about a minute or until it's smooth. You also want to make sure you're letting the steam out of the blender as well. So I hope you try this red chili sauce. It is truly delicious and special. Mike and I, we met in New Mexico and we lived off-grid in the mountains there. Also, if you really don't like spicy food, you could actually make this chili sauce with guajillo. It would have absolutely no spiciness. Or you could try a mild red chili, but if you like it hot, get the hot because it's going to be pretty scorching. That concludes our video tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here and I enjoyed doing this video. If you are still here, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It really helps. Goodbye.